On your timetable over the next couple of weeks, you've got time planned in to complete 5 DPP, which is your final assignment. So I thought it might be useful to record this guide, maybe to help you answer some of the questions. Here's a copy of the assignment brief. You've all had a copy of this early on in the course, probably week 2 or week 3. However, if you've misplaced your hard copy, it is available on Moodle under the Unit 6, so right at the bottom of our Moodle page. So on Activity 1, it asks you to write a report in which you briefly explain how the CIPD HR profession map defines the HR profession, and you need to include the professional areas, the bands and the behaviours. So when you write this section, my suggestion would be to imagine that I don't know anything about the HR map and you're trying to explain the format of it to me. So what it does, what the areas are all about, what the bands are and what the behaviours are. Now, to be able to do this, if you click on if you go to the CIPD website and click on the right hand side, there is a link for the HR map, and when you hover over each of those sections on the map, it will give you a bit of detail for each section. You also did a piece of work in week 6, which is available on Moodle. I've uploaded it in terms of Wednesday evening, Thursday evening, and it's work that you completed in groups in class to directly answer this question. So if you prefer, you can have a look at the work that you did, and it's absolutely fine for you to use that explanation in your assignment as it's work that you completed yourselves. So if we have a look at the HR map and we take a look at the next section. Okay, so having a look at the HR map, the next question asks you to evaluate how the 2 core professional areas and any 2 of the behaviours uphold the concept of HR professionalism. So it specifically states the 2 core professional areas. So you are asked to evaluate how leading HR and insight, strategy and solutions can help you to uphold the concept of HR professionalism. And it asks you to give examples of knowledge and activities at band 2. So if you go to the map and have a look at leading HR and insight, strategy and solutions, it will give you an indication of what knowledge is required and what activities you will be expected to partake in at band 2. So if you decide to talk about any other areas on the map, you will not have fulfilled the assessment criteria and therefore you won't be able to gain a pass. So it's really important that you only concentrate on the middle 2. In terms of the behaviours though, you have some choice. It asks you to talk about 2 behaviours. So there are 8 in the outer, the paler blue circle. So curious, decisive, thinker, skilled, influencer and so on. And you can choose the 2 that you would like to talk about and the ones that you think would most uphold the concept of HR professionalism. The next part of Activity 1 is to explain with related examples why HR professionals need to be able to manage themselves, manage groups or teams, manage upwards or manage across the organisation. So there are many ways that you could do this, and one of them could be that you approach it from a model's point of view, as in you could apply Tuckman's, so the forming, storming, norming, performing model, or Belbin's team roles, or an MBTI or DISC profiling. So you can approach it from using those methods, or you could use it with detail to the map, the HR map. So an example that I've put in is that there are 8 behaviours on the map and you're asked to talk about 4 different sets of people. So I've chosen the 2 behaviours that I think are most important in terms of managing the team, 2 which are most relevant to managing upwards, 2 behaviours which are useful for managing across the organisation, and 2 most relevant for managing yourself. So you can use this approach, you don't have to. You might not agree with the behaviours that I've chosen. It really doesn't matter, as long as you can explain and you can justify the reasons for your choices. So as an example, I would think that in terms of managing a team, collaborative working is essential, both for teams that I'm involved in, or to teach people about the need for collaborative working in teams that I wouldn't be involved in. And then role modelling would also be essential. I think that if you're asking people to work collaboratively, then that's something that you would need to role model yourself within that team. And then the next example could be managing upwards, because there isn't a direct line there for you to be able to manage upwards. You need to use alternative skills, such as being a skills influencer. That would be an area I think would be most useful for managing upwards, as would having the courage to challenge. It really can be quite difficult sometimes in challenging your line manager or maybe your directors, but it's essential for us in the HR profession to be able to do so. So that's the kind of idea that I would think would give you a simple framework for answering that part of activity 1. So moving on to activity 2, it asks you to undertake a self-assessment against the CIPD HR map, and when you finish the HR map, you need to do a printout, and that's got to be included in your folder. So you'll probably end up with about 80 to 100 pages, so think about how you're going to print it out. It's absolutely fine to do 2 pages per printed sheet. So effectively you'll be having 2 A4 presentations of the HR map per A4 piece of paper, and that will help you to reduce your printing. You're also asked to evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of at least 3 development options and their fit with your own learning style and career aspirations. So for this, you need to have a look at the recommendations that are made as part of the HR map and talk about 3 of them, and you need to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of each of those methods that you've chosen. So an example could be that if you focused on the area of learning and talent development, 3 options could be for you maybe to read a book related to that topic, or it could be to attend a training session, or it could be to job shadow a learning and talent development professional in the workplace. What you need to do is highlight the advantage and disadvantage of each. So it might be that while books are readily available, they might be out of date by the time that you read them. They might not be particularly useful to the context of your workplace. Going on a training session may be useful. However, is it really going to give you an insight into you trying to think of what you've got to consider if you're delivering learning and talent development activities? Or the last option, which was to job shadow a learning and talent development professional, could be that it gives you a real insight into the job role and to the day-to-day requirements of that role. However, it might not be very easy for you to set this up within your workplace. Once you've done that, you need to think about how do they fit with your learning styles. So an example here could be that if it was highlighted that you were heavily read-write in your preference for your learning style, and we identified your preferred learning style at the beginning of the course in the VARC questionnaires, if you came out as a heavily read-write, then thinking of the 3 options we've just discussed, the book would probably suit most in terms of your preferred learning style. Attending a training session could, as long as there were plenty of support materials to be read either before, during or after the course. And the job shadowing would probably be the least suited to your preferred learning style, and this would probably suit a more kinesthetic style of learning. In terms of your career aspirations, it could be that you Your career aspirations could be to be a generalist within the HR profession, or it could be that you want to be a learning and talent development professional, in which case you'd be able to say that the job shadow will be probably the most useful in terms of your career aspirations, because this might afford you the opportunity to talk to that professional and ask them what did they do, what was their career path, and so on. So that would be presented in essay format. So that section, along with activity 1, will be essay style, and that will be around 2,000 words. The next part of activity 2 is to take 2 development needs from the map and enter them onto a development plan. And you also need to make an entry here to say that you would like to complete your level 5 CIPD course. So in total you should have 3 entries on your development plan. And this plan is a template produced by the CIPD, and it's uploaded onto the Moodle site, so it's on the top section of our Moodle site. However, you don't need to present it in this format. If you prefer to do it in a different way, that's absolutely fine. However, this format is quite useful, straightforward, and easily lends itself for you to write smart objectives if you complete each of the columns. What I'd suggest for your development needs from the map is to take either an area or a behaviour, or 2 areas or 2 behaviours, and put them onto the plan. You'd be able to make an entry which says something like you would like to develop yourself in terms of becoming a skilled influencer, and that then gives you lots of opportunities for you to show what steps you've taken to try to achieve that goal when you're completing your development record. So here's an example development plan from the CIPD, and although it may be quite fuzzy to read, it kind of gives you an idea of the detail that's required on the development plan. So as you can see, they've got 4 entries on theirs. For your assignment, you only need to put 3 on there, and this is the level of detail that's required. So at most you'll be using 2 pages for the development plan, and I would imagine in most cases it would only be 1 page. The next part of the activity, or activity 3, is to, it says during your studies you need to reflect on your learning and performance against the entries that you've made on your plan. So the goals that you set yourself on your development plan, this section really is to highlight what have you done to try to achieve those goals. So you will have learned something new every week, and whether that's in college or whether it's in the workplace, and so you should be aiming to put 40 entries onto your development record. Now, assessment criteria 4.4 asks you to reflect on each unit of the course, and that means that you need to make an entry on your development record of what you've actually gained in terms of understanding from each of those modules. Now, the modules lasted 6 weeks each, and so these entries should be longer than your standard weekly entry. And you can put them onto your development record if you like, in which case you're probably going to be using 1 sheet per module, because they are longer than the normal weekly entry. However, if you decide to, you could write this up in essay style instead, so you'd be looking at a paragraph for each module. And what you'll need to do is support this with a copy of your past assignment from each module, and you would include this in your evidence section of your folder. Here's an example of a development record, again from the CIPD, and again available on Moodle under the first section of our course. So it allows you to either complete this electronically or handwritten. It really is up to you how you decide to present your information. And again, I've put this in just to give you an indication of the detail that's required. Now, the entries here shown are the standard weekly entries. So bear in mind that if you're doing your module entries, you would expect to have a lot more detail on there than these standard weekly ones. So finally, let's look at how you're going to present your assignment. So assessment criteria 1.1, 1.2 and 4.2, they'll be in essay style, and they'll have a total of 2,000 words. Assessment criteria 4.1 will be a print off of your map. 4.3 will be your development plan, and 4.4 will be your development record with supporting evidence. So here it's important to remember to include copies of all of your past assignments. So it will appear a little bit bitty, and I think the best way for you to do this is present all of your work in a folder with dividers for each section. So on our review date of Tuesday the 8th of July, or Wednesday the 2nd of July, or Thursday the 3rd of July, all of the previously signed front sheets that you've completed throughout the year will be returned to you, and you'll be able to make up your folder. What we'll do on that date is check that you've got all of the evidence that we've talked about, and all of the bits, all of the different sections that make up this assignment, and make sure that everything is present in your folder. And if you are completed, then you can hand that folder in and you'll be able to finish the course early. If you're not completed by that date, or if you come into these drop-in sessions and we find out that there's parts missing, you will have an opportunity to take the folder away and continue to work on this assignment. However, the absolute final deadline for this assignment is Thursday the 24th of July. There won't be any scope for late submissions, and we won't be able to accept any late submissions under any circumstances, because the CIPD moderator will be in the following week, in which case we need to have all of these 5 DPP assignments marked and second marked before he comes in. So please plan your time accordingly, make the best use you can of the drop-in sessions, and answer any ask any questions that you need to prior to this date. I hope this has helped to answer some of your questions, but if you've still got anything that's still unanswered, then as I said, make your best use of the drop-in sessions, or email me and I'll try and help you as best I can. So good luck with completing 5 DPP, and I look forward to seeing you on the 8th, the 2nd or the 3rd of July.